Okay, in this video, we are going to look at univariate data and how to use that and produce graphs in Desmos. Some students may not have a graphing calculator at home, or they just may prefer to use Desmos if they have an iPad or a Chromebook or a laptop or anything. Desmos is really easy to use. So if I use a random number, I can draw it out of a hat. I can do whatever. It's a little more difficult to do random integer on the Desmos, but if I randomly got, let's say, day 2, well, I took time to input that, and I just picked a letter, L equal boxed off bracket, and I just started typing the numbers, and there were 18 numbers in this list. Okay, and then I hit enter, and notice here it tells me I have 18 numbers in my list. Okay, so from here, all of the graphs are really easy. If you are, make sure you show your keyboard at the bottom of Desmos, pick distribution and histogram, and type in your capital L, and there's your histogram. Pretty simple. And if I notice, the one thing it does do is it will always start at the smallest number, and notice the smallest number here is 54, so it's centering over 54. Well, I want it to be left aligned so that it's to the right of 54. So 54 would actually be my first number in my list. But I want to change my bin width, and as soon as I click that bin width, notice the 1 shows up there right following the comma, and I'm going to change that to, say, 4. Looks pretty good. Lots of bins though. So let's see if I change it to 6. That's pretty good. I can see that it kind of comes up, goes down, and back up again. Kind of hard to describe that graph. It's definitely not symmetric. It's not really skewed. We could say it's bimodal because we have a tall bar here and some tallness over here. So histogram might not be the easiest. It might be better if we went back to the 4 and we looked, and again we still kind of see the bimodal, tall here, tall here. We see this gap between 60 and 65, or 60 and 64, sorry, which would be an unusual. Now, if we were wanting to find our center, we can go to function and go to stat, mean, and type in our L, and it's 72.61, and I can actually graph that. Graph x equal 72.6 with a bunch of 1s, and enter, and there is the mean. And we could have it calculate the standard deviation. Click on function and pick standard deviation and type in our L. And our standard deviation is about 10.891. And we kind of know that most of this should fall within 3 standard deviations. So that would be like 100, and it works out great. Okay, so there's our standard deviation. Now, another thing that this calculator does that the TI-84 does not do is it will calculate the MAD, the mean absolute deviation, so that you can compare those. So that's one way for the students to check when they are doing their lesson on MAD and standard deviation. This would be a good place to go back and let them put in the data and check themselves for that. Okay, in addition to finding those, we could also plot a dot plot. I really like the dot plot feature, distribution dot plot, and type in that L. Oops, sorry about that. Type in that L. And I like this for a couple of reasons, but notice that on this graph we can see that this has a height of 1 and there's 1 dot. This has a height of 3, and there's 3 dots in there. Notice that this dot is being shown in or being represented in this bin over 70, because any dot that's on the line would go in the bin to the right. And then these two are actually in this bin, but the two that are on the line are actually in the next bin. If we went back up and changed our histogram, let's see if we change it to 6, what happens. Okay, and we can see that even if we went back to 6, we see that it's on the line, and we can kind of play with that. So it really, to me, shows a great visual of the dot plot and the histogram, and those going one into the other. The other thing that we can do is also a box plot. Love, love, love this box plot for L. I don't like it goes straight on there, but we can offset. So if I want to move it, say, down to -3, it'll pop it right down there. And if I want that middle box to be a little bit thicker, I just change the height to, say, 3 or 2. And hopefully you'll notice, remember, the red line is the mean. This is the median. And if the mean is less than the median, my data is skewed to the left. So obviously it shows it's skewed to the left. There's a whole lot more on this side of the graph. So everything kind of checks out with what we've been teaching them in the past. And with great visual. Quick, easy, graph the lines, and for them to see it instead of just talk about it. I hope this helps. Any of the other values that you might want are right here in function under stats. I might want my min or max or median calculated. Those are all right in there. So I hope this helps, and you take a chance in using some Desmos. It's very simple, easy to use, and pretty quick. Just kind of throwing those numbers in there, and you've got a graph in like 2 seconds.